I tried to call Marcus a few more times after I received his text, but just as I suspected, he didn't answer. He was either killed or captured, leaving me on my own. The call still went to voicemail, however, so his phone was still active. Whoever ran him off the road likely took it, and I could use that to my advantage to buy some time. "Will do. I'll leave town right away. I'll be walking along the main road in case you can follow me." Hopefully that was a convincing enough red herring, sending them on a wild goose chase that would give me an hour or two to sleep. I desperately needed some of that, to clear my mind so I could think straight. Making any decisions, forming any plans in my current condition, it was a bad idea. I was aware of that much. Keeping that in the forefront of my mind, I made my way home. Many people passed me in the streets, and I felt their eyes on me when I wasn't looking their way. But I remained calm. Sort of. I reminded myself that it was paranoia, that I was slowly going mad from fatigue and stress. That not all of it was real. Some of it, maybe, but certainly not all. I needed to remain rational to the best of my abilities. I got home without incident. No one followed me, and I found the house still empty and locked up like I'd left it. The current plan was to sleep a bit, then head out of town into the wilderness. I'd set up camp somewhere remote, far away from everyone and everything, and use that time to rest. Dad had some bare-bones camping gear that he used to go fishing, so I could use that. Although it wasn't much, it would have been useful. I found it all stacked away in the garage, so I threw together a hasty bug-out bag to have it ready. A small fishing tent, a flashlight, some matches and cans of food, but no weapons since we didn't have any. A firearm would have been really useful, but this will have to do, I thought as I retrieved the crowbar. I didn't plan to use it to hunt or anything, just to defend myself until I made it out of town. With the preparations complete, I barricaded my bedroom by dragging a heavy drawer in front of the door. The window I left unlocked, just in case I needed to make a run for it. My room was up on the first floor, but the jump down wouldn't be too bad. Being in an actual bed after the last few days was absolute bliss. I can't describe it. I fell asleep so fast that I almost didn't get to set an alarm to wake me up around midnight. It went by fast, however, and this time I finally had some dreams. Nightmares. And I can't remember much of them, only bits and pieces. Something crawling into bed next to me, speaking in my mind, trying to undo the seams of my very soul so it could take a peek inside. Getting angry when I resisted, growing more aggressive, tugging at the corners of my brain the more I fought back. I woke up screaming, kicking, and punching blindly. My fist connected with something meaty, and I heard a familiar voice letting out a yelp. What the hell? Opening my eyes, I found Dad on his ass next to the bed. His lip was split wide open, and Mom was by his side on her knees. "Yeah, that was a pretty intense nightmare you had there," Dad said with a smile, rubbing away the gushing blood with his sleeve. "I think I'll need stitches." Looking around the room, I saw that the dresser I had dragged in front of the door was back in its place. The door and the window were wide open, creating a draft that pulled the cold December air inside. The instinct to just bolt it right then and there kicked in, but I subdued it. "Where have you guys been?" I asked them. I decided to question them because maybe, just maybe, the last few days were indeed a hallucination. "To the Grand Canyon," Mom answered and helped Dad to his feet. "You know, on the vacation we planned for, 2 months now?" Dad went to the bathroom to patch up his busted lip, leaving me and Mom alone. He looked back at me for a split second before he closed the door. His gaze filled with anger and hatred. Sarah's friend, Amy was her name? Mom continued. Anyway, she called the reception of the hotel we were at and told us everything, so we rushed home to be here for you. Okay, thank you guys. Let's go check up on Dad. Maybe he needs help. Mom eyed me with suspicion, but she got up. And don't forget to apologize to him. You clocked him pretty hard, she added. Will do. Something skittered in the closet, attracting my attention. I looked over, seeing the darkness inside shifting between the slits of the sliding doors. A pitch-black figure, humanoid in shape, peered back at me with dimly glowing eyes. Can we order pizza? I'm starving, I said, walking past Mom to open the door for her. Sure thing. Maybe an ambulance for your father as well. He's a big guy. He'll manage. She walked past me and into the corridor, so I pushed her away and shut the door. The bag was next to the bed along with the crowbar, and I grabbed them both before I jumped out the window. I landed outside in the grass with a heavy thud. Frantic footsteps came from inside the house. Clancy, come back! Mom yelled. I burst into a sprint, jumping through a neighbor's yard and coming out on the next street over. The town had many roads leaving it, none of them close by, but I didn't plan to use them anyway. I ran through the yards and jumped over the fences, making a beeline to the closest edge of town. A forested area that I could use to my advantage. Cars couldn't fit in there and I'd be harder to find among the trees. My phone rang again and again, but I didn't stop. I pulled it out and checked it between the hasty strides I took, finding it was Mom, of course. And it was only 10 p.m. or so, which meant I got 2 hours of sleep less than I'd bargained for. Doesn't matter. I'll get all the sleep in the world once I'm safe. Something chased after me, slinking from one shadow to the next in the blink of an eye. I heard the tip-tap of its claws on the rooftops behind, but whenever I whipped my head back to check, I couldn't spot it. It's the one that wants to take my place, I concluded. That threw a wrench in my plan. If it would chase me into the wilderness, I couldn't get the rest I so desperately needed. But then again, if I could lead it far enough away, I could take it on one-on-one. How strong could it be if it couldn't open up a measly basement door? My mad dash got me to the town's edge in about 10 minutes, and I could already see the forest from a few streets away. I jumped through the final yard in my way, with the mimic still on my tail, only to be met with a cop car swerving onto the street. Its lights and sirens were off, and the front bumper was in utter ruins, barely hanging on. I ran across the road and slid down the steep embankment, coming to a stop on the muddy soil covered with decaying leaves. The cop car pulled up behind me and its doors flew open. "Stop, Sonny," one of the cops yelled. "Come back with us. We're here to help." For a brief moment, I regretted that Sarah never recorded the voices of the two officers that went down into her basement. I was certain that if she had, I would have recognized them right now. "Leave me alone. I haven't done anything wrong." They came down after me as I entered the sea of trees. Something hit one of the trunks right as I ducked behind it, and I was worried for a moment that it was a bullet. Whipping my head around, I found one of the officers discarding a spent taser gun instead, which wasn't much better, to be honest, but at the very least it would only incapacitate me. They ran after me for a few hundred feet, and I couldn't for the life of me shake them off. I tried veering away, hiding behind trees, doing everything in my power to break their line of sight. Nothing worked. They knew exactly where I was at all times. It felt like I was up against bloodhounds, not humans. Over the course of a few minutes, they gained on me. I'm just an average Joe in an average physical shape and tried to high hell and back to top it off. I couldn't outrun 2 trained officers. One of them got a hold of my backpack and yanked me, throwing me to the ground. I landed face first into the mush of leaves and dirt. Calm down, Sonny. No! Fuck! Let go! I struggled and fought back, but the 2 of them subdued me. One got on top of me to hold me still, and the other one pulled my hands behind my back to cuff me. Fight left me as I felt my body shutting down from overexertion. The cold metal of the cuffs came around my wrists, chilling my skin in 2 thin stripes, and they clicked into place. You can't arrest me. I haven't done anything. I'm innocent, I tried pleading. We're not arresting you, Sonny. Your parents and sister called. They're worried for you. Said you're about to run away. So what? I'm an adult. I can disappear if I want. Not in your current condition. Right now you need psychiatric help, the cop answered. They pulled me to my feet and got by my sides, getting tight grips on my arms. We slowly walked back to the car as I tried to plead some more, and I had enough presence of mind to not mention anything about mimics. Even so, my cries landed on deaf ears. The mimic that chased me, was in the forest with us as well. It jumped from branch to branch, always within earshot but never within sight. I wondered why they didn't just get it over with. Why they didn't leave me there to be consumed and replaced. I was incapacitated. I couldn't fight the creature. Or maybe they had other plans for me. Something more nefarious. Maybe they needed to completely break me beforehand. I tried to think as they dragged me around. To form a new plan, something, anything. When we reached the embankment, I got an idea. You see, it was steep and slippery. One wrong step and you'd eat dirt at the bottom. And that was something I could use. As we started climbing it, I prepared myself to act. When we reached halfway up, I headbutted one of the officers and tripped the other. They weren't expecting it. And just like I hoped they would, they slipped back down the slope. But one of them got a hold of my backpack, ripping it open and spilling my supplies everywhere. I didn't go down with them, so I jumped up the last stretch and landed on the pavement on my stomach. Getting to my feet with my hands behind my back was harder than I expected, but I heard the officers climbing again, so I needed to hurry. Screw this. As luck would have it, I'm pretty slim and flexible, so I decided to try a maneuver I've seen plenty of times in movies. I pulled my knees up into my chest, got my hands under my ass, and passed my feet between them one at a time, which makes it sound very easy and simple, but under pressure and with 2 officers nearing me, it really wasn't. I couldn't open or break the cuffs, but at the very least I had my hands in front of me again. Their car was right there, and I realized that the engine was idling. In their haste, they left it running with the key still in the ignition. I ran over to it and tried the door, letting out a sigh of relief when it did indeed open. Hey! One of the officers yelled as I climbed inside. Now, just because I don't have a license doesn't mean I don't know how to drive. It was stupid and risky of us, but a friend let me drive his Jeep on the back roads a few times for fun. I wasn't an expert by any means, but I know how to throw a car and drive and push a pedal. Good thing it wasn't a manual transmission. No way in hell I could have used a clutch and steer with my hands cuffed. I sped off, leaving the 2 cops and the mimic behind. Which, yeah, bad idea, I know. It's bad enough to steal a normal car, but to steal a cop car is much worse. I'm not sure what the repercussions are, and to be honest, but I imagine it's not pretty. Still, I could probably plead insanity in a court of law if it ever comes down to that. Everyone around me insists I'm crazy anyways. In that moment, the only thing that mattered was to escape. I drove to the other side of town and rummaged through the car until I found something to pry open the cuffs. With my hands free, I planned to drive the car out of town and abandon it. There was likely a tracker in it somewhere, but before I did that, I wanted to do one final thing. To prove to myself that it was all real, that I wasn't going completely insane. I didn't have time to find Marcus or his body. I couldn't return to Sarah's house for fear of being caught, but there was one place that I could check. The cemetery. A few minutes later, I pulled up at the gates and went inside. It was very creepy at night, to put it mildly. A sea of headstones standing tall in the darkness. Still, compared to the last few days I'd been through, this didn't really faze me. I walked around for a few minutes in search of a particular headstone. The one we put on Sarah's grave. It was in the back of the cemetery, right next to her mother's. My heart stopped when I reached it, and found it blank. I fell to my knees in front of it, and I just started sobbing. You know, it would be so easy to cave in your head right now. Sarah's voice from behind. I shot up to my feet and spun on my heels, coming face to face with her. She was alone, hands propped on the handle of a spade that she pushed into the soil in front of herself. If I really wanted to kill you or harm you, I could have done it while your back was turned. Is that proof enough that I don't want to do either? How'd you know I'm here? I asked, taking a step away from her. Because I've been through the same thing. Because I know how a broken mind thinks, Sarah answered. You want proof, a sign, something, anything to convince you of your delusions. She threw the spade at my feet. So go ahead. Dig. Find your proof. I won't stop you. But that grave is empty. No, it's not, I contradicted her. The stonecutters didn't get around to marking the grave yet. You just want to keep me busy so the others can get here and catch me. She sighed. I should have just smacked you over the head with that, I swear. Tell you what, if you're so sure I'm the mimic, strike me down. I won't fight back. She fanned out her arms, and even turned her back to me. I lifted the spade, but I couldn't go through with it. God fucking damn it! I yelled and threw the spade away. Why? Why are you fucking with me? Why not show your true colors? Why not kill me like you did Marcus? Sarah put her hands down and turned around. Marcus? She asked, and she seemed genuinely dumbfounded. Marcus, the monster hunter. Stop toying with me, your gaslighting won't work. Clancy, there was never any Marcus or any monster hunter. I pulled out my phone to prove her wrong, to shatter her charade. She watched me intently, but she didn't make any moves. I browsed everywhere, call and text history, but I couldn't find Marcus's number. When that failed me, I pulled out my wallet to search for the business card. It was gone as well. At that point, I gave up. What else could I do? How could I prove to myself, let alone to anyone else, that I was sane? I wasn't. That much became evident even to me. Sure, I could blame the disappearance of Marcus's business card and call logs on my parents, but it didn't make sense. Nothing did. Not unless I admitted to the delusions and to needing help. Amy had been right. The mental problems likely ran in our family, and Sarah's breakdown jump-started my own. I I don't... Here, let me take you home. You can sleep, you can clear your mind, and we can both look for help starting tomorrow. How does that sound? Sounds good. She took the lead, and I followed behind her towards the exit. It felt wrong. It felt so very wrong. But I didn't have it in me to fight anymore. I was drained. Even if I ran away, how far could I make it? I stole a damn cop car. They'd look for me relentlessly. At this point, I just wanted everything to be over with. The 2 officers called us when you stole their car, Sarah said as we walked. Fuck. No, listen. They called us and we talked, and they agreed not to report you on one condition. We return their car, and you seek out therapy immediately. They're not assholes. They understand you've had it rough, and they'll give you another chance. That's very kind of them. I'll have to make it up to them when I get better. You do, Sarah agreed. And to us as well. You really put us through hell. I know, and I'm sorry. Sarah smiled, a wide, beaming smile, with no trace of anything except genuine happiness. Apology accepted. It's getting so bad, though. I still feel watched even now. I still hear the cracks in your voice, in everyone's voices. I hear the cracks in yours as well, so welcome to the Mimic Club, I guess? She quipped. Next target is Old Man Jenkins down the road. I have the whole plan ready. We'll make him believe reptilians are real. Oof, that's gonna be tricky. I don't even know how to transform yet. All in due time, she reassured me. We'll teach you, young mimic. We left the cemetery, finding Amy and the 2 officers waiting outside. I apologized profusely while they laughed and assured me all was fine now. They took their keys back and left, and we got into Amy's car to do the same. We're going to my house, by the way, Sarah said as we entered the road. Dad drove himself and your mom over when you ran from their house. They thought maybe you'd come to my place. The rest of the ride was silent, and when we got there, I did indeed see Dad's car outside. The 2 of them waited in the living room for our return, and they jumped on me as soon as I entered through the door. They hugged me and cried, and Mom bombarded my cheeks with kisses. Give him some room, you guys, Sarah told them and broke up the group hug. And you, get some sleep right away, she demanded. You'll feel much better in the morning. It felt so strange, so surreal. Being back at Sarah's place, I mean. I wasn't gone for long, but it felt like I'd ran away from here an eternity ago. My life had changed so drastically overnight. I've been through so much in a matter of mere days. In all honesty, it was as fascinating to think about as it was terrifying. So that's what started it all, Dad said with a sad smile, looking down at the basement door laying open. A goddamned basement of all things. You know, he continued, turning to look at Sarah, you were always afraid of the dark as a kid. Was I? She asked with a chuckle. I don't really remember. I had to check inside your closet and under your bed for boogeymen every night until you turned 10. Dad answered with a laugh. I guess it is pretty scary, Sarah mumbled and walked over to the door. But there's nothing down there. Take a look. I made my way next to her, and she flipped the light switch next to the door. A light bulb down in the room came to life, chasing away the shadows and darkness. And indeed, it was a normal room with nothing strange about it. At least as far as basements go, anyway. The walls and ceiling weren't charred, there was no trace of soot. Even the concrete at the bottom was spotless. To think we both went insane over a bit of darkness, I said as I peered down the stairs leading to the bottom. Right? But Sarah didn't answer me. No one did. The room fell completely silent, and I felt a pair of hands pushing me from behind. I tumbled down the stairs, landing at the bottom. No! The door of the basement closed shut. I tried to get up but stumbled, so I skittered up the stairs on all fours. The click of the locks being latched reached me right before the lights went out, and I crashed into the door. I trusted you! I yelled and started banging on the doors with desperation. I'm not insane! You're mimics! All of you! I knew it! I kept banging on the door and pleading, but no one responded. Not a damn word. The bastards wouldn't even entertain me with a clear-cut answer. I yelled until my throat went raw. I punched and kicked the door until my hands and feet turned bloody. But I couldn't break free. They finally got me. Please, I let out in a raspy voice as I slid down the door to my knees. Is anyone there? Sarah? Open the door. Nothing. I waited for hours, but I didn't hear anything from upstairs. Not a single peep. They just left me down here, unsure of what was real anymore. I tried to sleep, to get some rest at the very least, but I can't even do that. I'm alone in the room. I know as much for a fact, but I feel eyes on me whenever I lay down. This is it for me. The end of the line. I can't keep this up forever. I'm growing too tired and hungry. When I'll collapse, they'll get me. I'm sure of it. I'll become just another one of those things. Or it will steal my appearance and masquerade as me while they take over the town. I can't escape. All I can do is to warn you. Stay away from this place, and whatever you do, don't believe another word I'll say. It might be one of them.